How formidable is our protagonist? He leads an inspiring life, appearing like a mere student. Yet, his chickens are phoenixes, the fish in his pond are dragons, and his kitchen knife is a transformable divine artifact. Even immortal emperors are mere trash in its eyes, and it often yearns to cut people down. Even the pots he uses for cooking, the bowls for eating, and the cups for drinking are all divine artifacts. His entire courtyard is imbued with the profound essence of the great Tao. When the protagonist wished to join an immortal sect, the sect master immediately abdicated his position. A casual pot of tea from him can cause one's cultivation realm to break through, and a simple stir-fry can enable someone to advance several levels. Yet, he himself is unaware that he is merely a mortal who transmigrated from Earth. Although he also possesses a system, it restricts him. Before completing 1,000 tasks, all his missions are mundane daily chores, and the rewards are exclusively practical household items. For 5 years, he has undertaken all sorts of peculiar tasks, from assisting in childbirth to crafting toys for children. While other transmigrators have everything they desire, he has completely forsaken Wi-Fi and air conditioning, living instead as a rustic countryman. The protagonist's name is Chen Han'an. He received another mission to join the Reliance sect. Failure to complete it would result in his erasure by the system. However, the protagonist did not even know the location of the Reliance sect. The protagonist got lost and wanted the system to provide navigation, but was told that a man should rely on himself, and thus the system was of no help. The Reliance sect wouldn't just fall from the sky. No sooner had the protagonist thought this than a young woman indeed fell from the heavens. The protagonist reached out to catch her but embraced only empty air. Such a beautiful young woman, who could crater the ground without sustaining any injury herself, must undoubtedly be an immortal cultivator. The protagonist stepped forward to greet her, but the young woman pleaded, "Senior, please save me." "Senior save you?" The protagonist was utterly bewildered. At that moment, several figures arrived on flying swords, each exuding an aura as powerful as a dragon. The protagonist was instantly dumbfounded, thinking, is she being pursued? The young woman gazed at the protagonist with pleading eyes, and the protagonist felt helpless, thinking, I am just a mortal, I can't possibly contend with so many immortal cultivators. This group of immortal cultivators actually knelt in unison, their voices trembling as they said, "Senior, if we have disturbed you, please forgive our transgression." Huh, what does this mean? The protagonist was completely stumped. Do all you immortal cultivators enjoy kneeling so formally? What he did not know, however, was that in the eyes of others, he was wreathed in the rhythms of the great Tao, exuding such immense pressure that even approaching him was difficult. A mere glance from him made them feel their souls would be annihilated. He was simply a monster. The young woman beside him witnessed this scene and thought, indeed, this senior master is no ordinary high-level expert. Just as the protagonist was about to speak, he had barely uttered 2 words when the kneeling group opposite him was already in tears, saying, "Senior, whatever your command, please speak it. If you find us an eyesore, we will leave immediately." This is truly too exaggerated. The protagonist understood. They were actually good people who did not wish to harm the young woman, but were constrained by orders from above. Thus, they sought him, a mere mortal, to intervene. He needed to give them a favorable response. So he tentatively said, "Perhaps you should all leave." In this manner, the group, as if granted a great pardon, swiftly fled. My name is Chen Han'an. I never expected the cliché transmigration plot from the internet to happen to me. Like others, I also have a system, but my system is particularly awful. Not only does it restrict me from becoming stronger, but it also refuses to provide navigation when I'm lost, spouting phrases like "a man must rely on himself." I have been in this world for 5 years, performing trivial tasks every day, from assisting in childbirth to making toys for children. This time, the mission is to join the Reliance sect, but I don't even know where the Reliance sect is. Just as I was at a loss, a young woman fell from the sky. Coincidentally, she turned out to be Morong Shui, the saintess of the Reliance sect. I never expected to stumble upon such a powerful connection. Now, not only will I be able to find the Reliance sect, but getting special treatment won't be an issue, and I'll even get to experience flying like an immortal cultivator. Morong Shui encountered the male protagonist while being hunted. The male protagonist, enveloped in the rhythm of the great Tao, directly frightened away 4 Golden Core stage experts who were pursuing her. However, this senior insisted he was immortal, and she dared not question him. When Morong Shui learned the male protagonist was heading to Kaoshan's sect, she was overjoyed. She had not expected her sect to have connections with such an extraordinary being, who might even bestow upon her a great opportunity, and perhaps she could even experience a true immortal spatial traversal along the way. For a considerable period, the two of them innocently harbored mutual expectations. Seeing that Morong Shui remained utterly still, the male protagonist reluctantly said, "Well, Miss Morong, as a mere mortal, I can only travel on foot, so you understand." Morong Shui immediately understood and, brimming with enthusiasm, declared, "Understood. This junior will accompany senior on foot." The two continued their journey until dusk. While Morong Shui meditated on the Tao by observing the water in a pond, the male protagonist set up his pot to cook a meal nearby. Morong Shui had been observing water to comprehend the Tao for several months, yet her bottleneck remained unbroken, so she persistently sought out the male protagonist for assistance. The male protagonist inquired, "Miss Morong, is the matter you wish for my help with related to water?" Morong Shui, with an expression of profound admiration, exclaimed, "Senior's words hit the mark perfectly, this junior is truly impressed." The male protagonist retorted, "Impressed by what, exactly? Your clothes are soaked through. Aren't you being a bit too informal with a man? And you're bare-bottomed." The young woman was even more astonished. "Not only can you discern that I cultivate water element techniques, but you also know I'm stuck at the foundation establishment peak bottleneck. Senior must have a solution. As an outsider, it's not really appropriate for me to help you with such matters. Perhaps you should first drink some water to warm yourself up, then carefully consider what you should do." Morong Shui took the water, feeling a slight disappointment, but then a sudden thought struck her, "Wait. Senior is subtly guiding me. It's not about comprehending through observing water, but through drinking water." And then, she truly achieved a breakthrough. This left the male protagonist utterly bewildered, thinking, "What exactly did I do?" Finally arriving at Kaoshan's sect, the male protagonist was astonished by the grandeur of the sect. No wonder Morong Shui didn't even know how to dry her clothes. Now there was a potential backdoor for him. Even if it meant performing menial tasks, the mission to join Kaoshan's sect absolutely had to be accomplished. In the main hall of the sect, Kaoshan's sect master Mu Yunhai, after hearing his daughter Morong Shui's description, simply believed his naive daughter had encountered a swindler, and thus decided to confront the charlatan waiting outside. Morong Shui quickly reminded her father to be more restrained. Kaoshan sect master Morong Yunhai scoffed, "I'd like to see what kind of powerful individual dares to deceive my daughter." However, the moment he stepped outside, he couldn't help but widen his eyes in shock, asking, "Xiao Shui, did you just say he was enveloped in the rhythm of the great Tao?" Morong Shui peeked out from behind her father, asking, "Can't father see it?" From Morong Yunhai's perspective, the male protagonist was saturated with the great Tao's essence, like a freshly steamed bun, with a vast, luminous mist of Tao permeating the surrounding space, everywhere. "You call that enveloped?" The male protagonist saw him and thought, "Here he comes. This must be the Kaoshan sect master. After all, I have a favor to ask, so the proper courtesies must be observed." Just as the male protagonist uttered the first syllable of senior, Kaoshan sect master Mu Yunhai had already bowed deeply to the ground, saying, "I was unaware of senior's esteemed presence and failed to greet you properly. I humbly beg your forgiveness." The male protagonist was utterly dumbfounded. "Sect master, are you jesting? I am merely a mortal. How could I be a senior, and how dare I allow you to welcome me?" These cultivators all loved calling him senior. With both father and daughter addressing him this way, wouldn't the generational hierarchy be thrown into disarray? Daughter Morong Shui secretly enlightened her father, "Senior cultivates as a mortal. It's best not to mention too many cultivation-related matters, lest you displease him. Look at the male protagonist, covered in the great Tao's essence, like someone with a VIP account," Morong Yunhai mused, troubled. "But this makes it impossible to view him as a mortal. If senior doesn't mind, you can just call me Xiao Hai. I hear senior wishes to join our sect." The protagonist said, "If you don't mind, I would like to stay in your esteemed sect, even as a handyman." Morong Yunhai hastily refused, while Morong Shui anxiously exclaimed from the side, "Father, you've gone mad. Unexpectedly, Morong Yunhai's next words left the protagonist dumbfounded. From today onwards, I relinquish my position as sect master. You will be the new sect master of our Kaoshan sect. He really has gone mad, he refused. No, absolutely not. How could I become a sect master? Morong Yunhai completely ignored him, thinking to his daughter, I was careless. It seems Senior thinks the position isn't grand enough. He coughed twice. Since that's the case, I won't be modest either. On behalf of my father, I've decided to have him relinquish his position as the ancestor of Kaoshan sect. Effective immediately, you are the sole ancestor of our Kaoshan sect. There's simply no reasoning with them, the protagonist sighed helplessly. You truly are a filial son. Is communicating with cultivators truly this difficult? The protagonist merely wanted to join a sect, but unexpectedly, the sect master of the Immortal sect wanted to cede his position to him. After the protagonist refused, the other party assumed he thought the position was too low. Thus, the protagonist inexplicably became the apex of Kaoshan sect's hierarchy, the sect ancestor. The protagonist, feeling himself a mere mortal unworthy of even being an ordinary disciple, was about to try and persuade the other party, but Kaoshan sect master Morong Yunhai had already finalized the matter. As everyone prepared to return to the main hall, Morong Shui held back Morong Yunhai. It turned out that Zhang Qingxian, the sect master of Huanyue sect, was still in the hall. To prevent Zhang Qingxian from saying anything disrespectful to the protagonist, Morong Yunhai hastily departed, intending to go in first and inform him. In the main hall, Zhang Qingxian saw Morong Yunhai return and asked, Brother Yunhai, has the charlatan outside the gate been driven away? Morong Yunhai quickly pressed Zhang Qingxian's shoulder and said, You absolutely must not speak of Senior in such a way. Xiao Shui wasn't joking, Senior's power is unfathomable. They are on their way here, so please, do not be disrespectful later. Moreover, this person is now our sect's ancestor. Zhang Qingxian looked utterly bewildered. Senior? Ancestor? Have even you been deceived? Zhang Qingxian waved his hand. No need for further words. I want to see for myself what methods this person possesses. As he stepped out, he happened to run into Morong Shui and the protagonist walking towards the main hall. Upon seeing the protagonist's VIP 10 effects, aura of extraordinary presence, Zhang Qingxian immediately knelt, thinking to himself, what kind of incredible luck did Yunhai stumble upon to associate with such an existence? The protagonist had recently grown somewhat accustomed to these displays, thinking, how much do you cultivators love to kneel respectfully? Should I also show off a little? The two hastily pulled the protagonist. You absolutely must not. Just then, a small wooden ball fell out from Zhang Qingxian's clothes. The protagonist took it and examined it. Where did you get this from? Zhang Qingxian replied, Senior, this was found by a disciple of my Huanyue sect on their travels. Its material is unknown, and it's hollow inside. Yunhai and I tried together but couldn't twist it open. I fear it hides something valuable. The protagonist said, this is just ordinary wood, there's nothing valuable inside, just something to eat. Zhang Qingxian asked, Senior, can your gaze see what's inside? The protagonist tossed the wooden ball in his hand. How could I have such an ability? This thing was made by me. It's a Luban lock, a toy for children. The mechanism is broken, though, so it needs to be opened in a different way. He then rummaged through his bag and finally pulled out a kitchen knife. The moment the protagonist took out the kitchen knife, everyone in the hall felt an unparalleled treasure had emerged. Their breathing became labored, and the sharp aura of the blade felt as if it would cleave their skin. Such might, even the legendary immortal artifacts were said not to reach this level. Could that knife be a divine artifact, beyond mere legend? He cut open the Luban lock, leaving everyone utterly stunned. The protagonist looked at them, realizing they had all retreated to a distance, and couldn't help but ask, why are you all hiding so far away? Zhang Qingxian hesitantly asked, Senior, what is this thing? Just candy. It was originally a reward for children opening the toy. Here, you can have it. An incredible event occurred. Zhang Qingxian's cultivation realm directly advanced to the 10th level of core formation. Seeing this, Morong Shui spoke, May I offer myself to you? This girl is not only beautiful but also has a great figure. I believe offering herself is the best way to repay him. The protagonist was instantly petrified. He gently patted Morong Shue's shoulder and said, a person shouldn't let a single piece of candy lead them astray, understand? Jokes aside, seriously, Morong Yunhai shamelessly declared, if you're so capable, why don't you compete with the senior for her? Not embracing such a powerful benefactor goes against all reason. What's more, little Shui herself has developed feelings. My son is also quite handsome, if he could offer himself. The mission is finally complete. The protagonist felt that there wasn't a single normal person in this sect. Since the sect's old ancestor usually had nothing to do, he directly instructed the others to fly him back, as it was clear from their interactions that they didn't understand subtle hints. The group took the protagonist, arriving at his small courtyard in the blink of an eye. The protagonist let out a slight sigh, what a pity. Hearing this sigh, Morong Yunhai's face turned green with fear, thinking, this flight by divine light is probably a snail's pace in the eyes of the senior. Did we perhaps delay the senior's time? Unbeknownst to him, the protagonist was lamenting the speed being too fast, having completely missed the pleasure of flying. Opening the courtyard gate, the protagonist casually invited the group to have a cup of tea before leaving. Morong Yunhai finally breathed a sigh of relief, thinking, fortunately, the senior didn't blame us. However, his courtyard seems a bit too simple. I must arrange a superior residence for the senior within the sect. The protagonist thought to himself, actually, I prefer it this way, and I also have chickens and fish to raise at home. At this moment, a rooster appeared in the mortals' field of vision. The large rooster faced the mortals, causing them to tremble simultaneously, unable to move a muscle. It was as if an ordinary person had entered someone's courtyard, and an untethered Tibetan mastiff ran up to them, sniffing around their legs. The protagonist saw them stop, turned his head, and asked, what's wrong with you all? Morong Yunhai wiped a bead of cold sweat, it's nothing, just suddenly found it a bit hard to breathe. Morong Shui and Zhang Qingxian also said with cold sweat on their foreheads, yes, it's nothing. Then you all can look around the courtyard for a bit, I'll go make some tea for you. A chill ran down Morong Yunhai's spine. The enormous peach tree in the courtyard instantly left everyone dumbfounded. Upon witnessing this scene, what exactly did they see? A grand peach tree enveloped in the essence of the Tao and resonating with purple aura, a broom similarly imbued with the essence of the Tao and purple aura, the entire courtyard was like this. At this moment, they finally understood what it meant to be a pay-to-win player. Morong Shui exclaimed, is this where the senior lives? This is truly terrifying. What should we do? Morong Yunhai braced himself and said, perhaps the senior is testing us. Hold on, we must hold on. However, facing such a scene, an immense pressure akin to a towering mountain, it would be a miracle if they could endure it. The clothes of all 9 people were drenched with sweat. Just as they could bear it no longer, the protagonist's light cough came from inside the house. In an instant, the chickens ceased crowing, the fish stopped leaping, and the oppressive aura receded like a tide. The surroundings fell silent, the pressure dissipated, and all mortals felt a sense of relief, as if escaping a great calamity. Morong Yunhai remarked, it must be the senior who ordered them to stop. Let's not linger here, we should go in quickly. Meanwhile, our protagonist was simply hiding inside his house, sipping tea, and had only coughed because he drank too quickly. The protagonist was utterly bewildered, are you all exercising in the courtyard? You're drenched in sweat, as if you've just finished an 800-meter race. My courtyard isn't a sports field. Even for cultivators, a few laps shouldn't exhaust you this much, should it? Are you perhaps suffering from kidney deficiency? Never mind, I think I'd better give you something to replenish yourselves. With that, he brewed a pot of tea and offered, please have a taste and see how it is. The crowd gazed at the teacups, which emanated a profound Taoist charm, many of them dumbfounded, and they secretly communicated amongst themselves. I wonder, what level of treasure is this teapot? Morong Yunhai replied, I'm not sure. But it shouldn't be inferior to the senior's cleaver, should it? It's best not to act rashly. As for the tea, they cautiously took a sip, and their eyes instantly widened. This is the spiritual root fluctuating. The spiritual root is the foundation of every cultivator, its level determines the speed and purity of spiritual energy absorption. Merely smelling the tea's aroma had caused their spiritual roots to improve by a notch. If one were to drink it, the effects would be simply unimaginable. Observing their peculiar expressions, the protagonist inquired, "What's wrong? Is it not good?" Several individuals tilted their heads back, guzzled down the tea, and exclaimed, "Senior, I want more." The protagonist was stunned. "Are you drinking it like wine? It seems you truly are quite weak, but don't worry, there's plenty of tea to go around." Receiving the protagonist's generous reply, the few individuals drank ceaselessly, like oxen. In no time, they were so bloated they collapsed onto the table. Unable to move, Morong Yunhai raised his cup and, with a burp, declared, "I want more." The protagonist responded, "Don't you find it difficult to swallow? I've drunk all the water I had stored for the past half-month, there's none left." "No water left? That's easily fixed." The bald man, Zhang Qingxian, swept his hand out, declaring, "Senior, I have some here." "This imbecile has no sense," the protagonist fumed. The protagonist escorted them to the door and said, "Drinking too much isn't good for your health. Go home, all of you, and do whatever you need to do." The crowd quickly nodded and bowed. "We will remember your teachings, Senior." Sweat beaded on the protagonist's forehead as he wondered, "What did I even teach them? But at least I finally sent those troublesome guests away. Sigh, I should go to town and buy some groceries, I'm starving." The scorching sun beat down. The former protector Grand Elder of Kaoshan's sect, Morong Gong, no, it should be said the previous protector Grand Elder of Kaoshan's sect, Morong Gong, sensed the precursor to an enlightenment. At this moment, observing and comprehending the Tao, he had at least a 60% chance of breaking through his bottleneck. Not a single error could be tolerated. Just as he was on the verge of success, his lifelong rival, Morong Yunhai, arrived. "Father! I've returned." Pfft! Morong Gong spewed out a mouthful of old blood. Morong Yunhai, however, did not notice that his father's face was as black as coal. He approached and said, "I have truly great news to tell you." After speaking, he noticed something was amiss and asked, "Father, you seem a little displeased? Good news?" Morong Gong roared, drawing his sword, "I, however, have dreadful news concerning you." Morong Yunhai's return to the sect interrupted Grand Elder Morong Gong's cultivation. Morong Gong, who was on the verge of advancement, ultimately failed. Years of effort were rendered futile. This filled Morong Gong with burning rage. "Very happy, are we? Good news, is it?" He delivered a thorough beating, causing the esteemed Kaoshan sect master, Morong Yunhai, to scurry away, clutching his head. "You've ruined my cultivation. Did I offend you in a past life?" Zhang Qingxian stared in astonishment and said to Morong Shui, "Your grandfather seems very displeased." Morong Shui, covered in a cold sweat, awkwardly replied, "Probably." Morong Yunhai embraced Morong Gong and cried, "Father." Morong Gong, beside himself with fury, responded, "Do you think I hit you too lightly?" Morong Yunhai stated, "Don't be angry. Our sect has gained the support of a powerful figure. With the help of a senior, your breakthrough will be effortless." Morong Gong, exasperated by his rebellious son, panted heavily and said, "Unless an immortal descends to enlighten me, even a grand ascension stage cultivator cannot help someone break through a bottleneck. My golden opportunity just now was completely ruined by you." Seeing Morong Gong's disbelief, Morong Yunhai stated, "You don't believe it, do you? How about a bet? Do you dare?" Morong Gong snorted coldly. "Why wouldn't I dare? If you can find someone at the body fusion stage, then you win." Morong Yunhai grinned cunningly. "All right, I bet 10,000 spirit stones." Zhang Qingxian and Morong Shui also placed their bets. Cold sweat began to form on Morong Gong. For this was almost the entire fortune of these individuals. Yet, they dared to wager it all. There must be something fishy going on. Seeing Morong Gong hesitate, Morong Yunhai quickly provoked, "What's wrong, are you scared now?" Morong Gong slapped him lightly, "Show some respect." Thus, the group was led to the protagonist's small courtyard. Morong Gong snorted coldly, "Is this all?" Morong Shui was startled and quickly said, "Grandfather, mind your words." Morong Yunhai also stated, "Indeed, be careful not to speak wrongly." the senior considers himself an ordinary mortal cultivating here, so please, do not mention anything about cultivation later. Morong Gong said, what a charade. I'd like to see what this immortal looks like. The moment the door opened, Morong Gong's pupils constricted violently. The courtyard, filled with profound Taoist principles and terrifying pressure, forced him to his knees instantly, unable to move. This, damn it, is truly a place where an immortal resides. Just the pressure alone immobilizes me. What terrifying existences are all these things? Just then, a terrifying aura swept forth, and a red-haired youth darted out. The fierce killing intent seemed to tear through space. The great rooster bellowed from behind, Cleaver assistant. At this critical juncture, the figure of the red-haired youth transformed into a whirlwind, circling Morong Gong several times before once again materializing in human form. His palm was already a zhang away from Morong Gong's forehead. Morong Yunhai and the others exclaimed in astonishment from behind. It's that senior's cleaver. Cold sweat poured down Morong Gong's back. He thought to himself. Could it be an artifact spirit? The artifact spirit, the cleaver, then spoke. Phoenix, this old man clearly isn't a good person, and I've never even met him. Chopping him shouldn't be a problem. Morong Gong's mind was on the verge of short-circuiting. An artifact spirit with such profound intelligence? This is an immortal artifact. And he calls this chicken Phoenix? How dire was this old man's predicament? He was once the guardian ancestor of the Cultivation sect, Kaoshan sect. Not only had his sect status vanished, but he was also interrupted by his own son just as he was on the brink of a breakthrough in cultivation. Upon entering the male lead's courtyard, he was almost cleaved to death by the male lead's artifact spirit cleaver, and it was the male lead's divine beast, the great rooster, who had to intercede on his behalf. It's not good to chop a fool. It wasn't easy to trick the cleaver into sparing him. The cleaver declared to him, behave yourself, or I will chop you even if it renders you a fool. Subsequently, it transformed into a streak of light and disappeared from sight. Morong Gong narrowly escaped death, and promptly offered his gratitude to the great rooster. The great rooster completely disregarded him, merely emitting an arrogant snort. The esteemed guardian ancestor of an entire sect was astonishingly scorned by a mere chicken. His own son, Morong Yunhai, stated, Dad. You must surely believe it now, right? When will you hand over the spirit stones? Seated on the ground, unable to rise, Morong Gong felt a torrent of righteous indignation surge to his very core. He then addressed Morong Yunhai, saying, Lean in a little closer. Morong Yunhai inclined his ear to listen. What did you say? Morong Gong sprang up and delivered a slap. Your father nearly died, and you're still relishing in my misfortune? Morong Shui offered words of comfort from the side. Grandpa, it seems the senior isn't here. Please bear with it for a while. Once the senior returns, you should be able to get up. At this moment, our protagonist happened to return from grocery shopping. Upon seeing the several people in the courtyard, he immediately wondered. Why have they come over? I really don't want to make tea again. Perhaps I should go out and hide? Just as he was about to slip away, Morong Shui's voice came from behind him. Senior, you finally returned. The protagonist gave a bright smile. Do you need anything else? Why are you back so soon? Morong Shui said, Senior, my grandfather the protagonist was quite surprised. Your grandfather? The words had barely left his mouth when he realized. What the hell? Morong Shui's grandfather, isn't that the original patriarch Kaoshan? Why is he kneeling in my courtyard? Thus, he hurried over, thinking, I certainly can't afford to offend a figure like this. No matter what has happened, I must first apologize to calm things down. Morong Yunhai reminded from the side, Father. The senior has arrived. He is surrounded by the essence of the Tao and its principles. Since this is your first time seeing him, remember to temper your expression later. Upon hearing this, Morong Gong looked towards the protagonist, and immediately exclaimed, Holy cow! Around him? You call this around him? The stronger one's power, the more one perceives. In Morong Gong's eyes, the entire courtyard, stretching across mountains and fields, was filled with the essence of the Tao and its principles, 360 degrees without a blind spot. The protagonist had barely uttered the character Qian when Morongong prostrated himself. "Greetings, senior." The protagonist was instantly dumbfounded. The seniority system is getting even more confusing. He quickly helped old man Gong up. "Senior, please get up quickly. As a mere mortal, I am unworthy of such a grand gesture." This caused the immense pressure that had locked onto Morongong to instantly vanish. Morongong thought to himself. He truly is an immortal. He can make such an intelligent immortal creature obey, and just as Yunhai said, Senior treats himself as a mortal cultivating his mind. The protagonist went to the kitchen and brought out the rice. Seeing how they ate, he was utterly stunned. Although he didn't understand, he was greatly shocked. They devoured even plain food as if they were starved ghosts. Reincarnation? The life of an immortal cultivator must be truly miserable, then? Looking at Miss Morong Shui, who was wolfing down her food. "You should really mind your manners." The group devoured all the dishes in a large bucket of rice with astonishing speed. Patting their bellies, which were now round as balls, they all said in unison. "Many thanks for your hospitality, senior." The protagonist was utterly petrified. You're welcome." He actually saw them lick the plates clean just now. That's simply too exaggerated. At this moment, the few who had just feasted were refining the immense spiritual energy. Zhang Qingxian's cultivation, at the 8th layer of nascent soul, directly broke through to the 5th layer of soul manifestation. Morongong, on the other hand, broke through from the peak of soul manifestation to the 2nd layer of soul division. Ancestor Morong Shui's cultivation, at the peak of core formation, had also advanced to the 5th layer of nascent soul. Meanwhile, Morong Yunhai, the sect master of Kaoshan's sect, also ascended from the 8th layer of nascent soul to the 5th layer of soul manifestation. It was indeed a tremendous harvest. Morong Gong exclaimed emotionally, "I've finally broken through. I had thought this bottleneck at the peak of soul manifestation would accompany me for the rest of my life, until I withered away in despair. To think, I broke through with just one meal. Not only that, but I even reached the 2nd layer of soul division." Overwhelmed with emotion, he bowed deeply in a grand salute. "Senior, this fortunate encounter is truly an immense act of kindness. I shall never forget it." Fortunate encounter? Does that mean the same as alms collection, like what monks say? The protagonist quickly helped the old man up and said. "A small opportunity, not worth mentioning." No sooner had he finished speaking, when Morong Gong, taking advantage of the situation, said. "Then we'll come and dine with you often whenever we're free in the future." The protagonist was utterly dumbfounded. And promptly threw them all out the door. "You should all go cultivate instead." Morong Yunhai felt embarrassed and said, "Father, how could you possibly say something like that? Isn't that completely shameless?" Morong Gong delivered a sharp slap. "You are the one being shameless. How dare you speak to me like that?" At this moment, the protagonist, having closed the door firmly, was seething with rage. "I didn't even get a single bite to eat, and you want to come every day? Are you devils?" Meanwhile, Morong Gong stated. "The senior asking us to cultivate is a reminder that if we only focus on level increases and neglect to solidify our cultivation foundations, the power gain will be superficial and meaningless." Morong Yunhai and Zhang Qingxian hid to the side, secretly chuckling. Enraging the old man, who declared furiously. "It seems you truly deserve a beating." Only Morong Shui, naively, nodded at the old man, and said. "I understand." Morong Gong couldn't help but sigh. Granddaughters are still the easiest to trick. He then turned to Zhang Qingxian and said. "Qingxian. You should only tell your father and your son about this matter. If too many people disturb the senior, it might provoke his anger. Do you understand?" Just as Zhang Qingxian was about to nod in agreement, he suddenly received a secret telepathic message. It was his father's voice. A voice transmission was heard saying, "Qingxian, remember this. Under no circumstances are you to return to the sect. If it is ever used, it can only mean one thing: the sect has suffered a catastrophic disaster." At this very moment, the illusory moon sect was facing a great catastrophe. This enemy, who had broken through to the first level of the soul division stage, had come seeking revenge. Throughout the entire illusory moon sect, there was no one who could stand against him for even a single exchange. Zhang Qingxian, you're back? Why have you returned? Are you rushing back for dinner? Did I not send a secret message telling you not to come under any circumstances? Zhang Qingxian scratched his head and said, with such a grave matter unfolding. With something of this magnitude happening. As the sect master, it would be inexcusable for me not to return. Besides, is he not merely at the first level of the soul division stage? However, this enemy at the soul division stage was practically amused to the point of laughter by anger. I suppose your son is just a common cabbage? If you can summon someone from the soul division stage, I'll call him father on the spot. Who are you? How dare you insult my beloved granddaughter? With a resounding boom, he instantly crushed the opponent. Who isn't at the soul division stage? Who could that divine being be? Zhang Qingxian replied, oh, that was Morong Gong. After advancing, it was a completely one-sided battle. At this moment, he exclaimed with satisfaction. After Morong Gong arrived, he asked, what is the matter with your cultivation? That, my friend, is a long story. Over the course of a meal, he then elaborately recounted, with added embellishments, the story of the mortal who had freeloaded on their food that day, to Zhang Xiaofeng. Quickly, take me to meet the senior. You believe even such an outlandish tale from me? If I do not believe you, then who else can I believe? Poor Zhang Qing, caught in the crossfire, wondered, am I truly their child? Zhang Xiaofeng's words deeply moved Morong Gong. Having descended to cultivate as a mortal, it would not be proper to disturb him at his residence. With enemies appearing at their doorstep, the Illusion Moon sect found itself in a precarious situation. Morong Gong and his companions, who had just undergone rapid advancement with the protagonist, arrived in the nick of time, decisively overpowering their opponents and neutralizing the crisis. It was at this very moment that the earth suddenly began to tremble, and an intense pressure swept over them, remarkably originating from the elder's location. Morong Gong, having developed a taste for such discoveries, immediately pulled Zhang Xiaofeng's hand to investigate, hoping they might even make it for the elder's dinner. Zhang Xiaofeng, utterly bewildered, was instantly pulled away by Morong Gong and vanished, leaving only Zhang Qingxian in disarray amidst the wind. And what about me? You should have brought me along. As Morong Gong and his companion arrived at the protagonist's entrance, they were sensed by a multitude of divine artifacts and beasts within the courtyard. Was this trouble drawn to them? Meanwhile, at the entrance, Zhang Xiaofeng was asking Morong Gong, is this the elder's residence? Morong Gong sighed in response, indeed, the main gate is shut, so the elder must have gone out. It seems we won't be having dinner at his place after all. Zhang Xiaofeng asked, puzzled, why are you always thinking about the elder's dinner? But was that mysterious black hole responsible for such a massive disturbance just now? Above the protagonist's residence, a colossal void, formed by energy, was spinning wildly, emitting an intense pressure and commotion. Such voids are often followed by the manifestation of a secret realm. One could imagine that with a void of this magnitude, the secret realm would likely be the size of an entire town, and the settlement below would be razed to the ground. Could this be the elder's doing? Morong Gong denied it, impossible. The elder cultivates his mind as a mortal and has never used his cultivation. He would never commit such a cruel act. The two discussed, let's go. Staying here won't help. While there's still time, we should head to the town and save as many people as we can. No sooner had they spoken than a golden light soared heavenward from the protagonist's dwelling. It was an incomparably massive golden dragon. It ascended into the sky and snapped its jaws towards the mysterious void. Morong Gong and his companion were instantly dumbfounded. Zhang Xiaofeng asked, is that a dragon? I didn't see wrong, did I? Morong Gong's expression was complex, but what if I told you there's also a phoenix inside? Zhang Xiaofeng was utterly stunned. A phoenix? Someone who can have both a dragon and a phoenix as assistants, wouldn't that make him an immortal emperor? Meanwhile, on the other side. In the quiet mountain forest, a wormhole suddenly tore open, and a sword, golden all over, fell out of it. It was heard to say, excellent, I've finally escaped to the mortal realm. That damned Blood Moon sect actually wanted me to acknowledge them as my master. Although I was severely injured by the turbulent currents in the teleportation array. To possess a spirit with such intelligence, this was clearly an immortal sword of no low rank. A pair of human feet suddenly appeared beside the immortal sword. There's a sword here. The immortal sword was startled, someone's here. But any mortal who touches me will surely be shattered to pieces by my spiritual energy. The immortal sword was picked up by someone, who was precisely the protagonist. He observed the sword body, finding it quite decent. The immortal sword looked at the protagonist, utterly stunned by the dense Tao charm emanating from him. Holy crap! What kind of monster is this person? The golden immortal sword was held in the protagonist's hand, and the Tao charm emanating from him made it tremble. Did I not open a passage to the mortal realm? How can such a powerful individual exist in this world? At this moment, the protagonist unexpectedly noticed the sword body trembling and remarked curiously, "It moves on its own? Could this be a high-grade magical artifact? Is that polite? Maybe it can fetch a good price." Having said that, he casually tossed it into his basket. Inside the basket, the immortal sword was utterly speechless. Sell it? Is that polite? To think of my glorious reputation throughout my life in the immortal realm, how many powerful cultivators wished for me to acknowledge them as master, yet now I've fallen to such a state. There's a basket full of ordinary herbs, and just now, he couldn't even discern my true rank. Could it be that I understand now? He's just a mortal, and it's because my body was severely damaged, greatly reducing my sharpness, that he was able to pick me up? Moreover, what I saw earlier wasn't any Tao charm, but merely a visual illusion. This is still the mortal realm. Just as the golden immortal sword was lost in thought, a cold snort interrupted it. Shut up! The terrifying pressure caused the golden immortal sword to tremble violently, and the contents of the protagonist's basket also shook incessantly. The protagonist turned his head to look, wondering, why is it shaking so violently? Inside the basket, a host stared with fierce eyes. Don't move! The golden immortal sword was so scared it nearly wet itself. It stammered, all good, boss. Yes, boss, no problem, boss. It didn't see wrong, did it? This hoe is actually a divine artifact? At this moment, several people flew past above the protagonist on their swords. A few cultivators riding flying swords sped directly towards a distant secret cave, exclaiming, "It's just ahead, quickly!" At this moment, the secret cave shook violently and ceaselessly. One of the elders exclaimed in alarm, "No, slow down, everyone stop!" But it was already too late. A colossal pillar of light erupted from the secret cave, illuminating the entire world. The protagonist was stunned, cupping his hands as he gazed at the black hole's pillar of light, wondering, could that be the so-called secret realm? A luminous screen unfurled in the air, and the system prompted, "Whoosh, you have a new message." A new message? The task shouldn't be issued this quickly, should it? You're not asking me to deal with that pillar of light, are you? Upon opening the message, a line of text appeared before him. Your lottery chance, 1, will expire in 5 hours. Please use it as soon as possible. Would you like to draw? The protagonist suddenly recalled that he had forgotten to use his lottery draw after completing the last mission. Since the prizes were always useless daily necessities, he had simply ignored them. Never mind, I'll just draw randomly. At least it's not related to the pillar of light. As the protagonist clicked the lottery button, a portal quickly materialized in the air. The system's mechanical voice announced, "Draw confirmed complete. The reward item is a Shao flute." The protagonist remarked, "This draw isn't bad. I happen to have learned to play it in my previous life. I'll have a chance to try it out when I get home." Having said that, he casually tossed it into the basket. The golden immortal sword was utterly bewildered. Unbelievable, another divine artifact. He just casually produced a divine artifact? This is impossible, it must be an illusion. Upon returning home, the protagonist tossed the bamboo basket onto the table. The entire room was filled with divine artifacts, causing the immortal sword to tremble in fright. After millennia of trials and tribulations in the immortal realm, it had never witnessed such a grand spectacle. Furthermore, the massive peach tree outside emitted an aura even stronger than that of an immortal emperor. And the large rooster and the goldfish in the pond possessed auras hundreds of times more potent than the dragon and phoenix auras of an immortal emperor. As night deepened, the enormous pillar of light within the secret cave illuminated the entire world, making it as bright as day. While most people were already asleep, a few audacious individuals were attempting to conquer the secret cave. They were Morong Gong and Morong Shuer. At this moment, Morong Shuer, already in the nascent soul stage, concentrated her vital energy and let out a soft cry as she attacked the pillar of light. Amidst the blinding flash, the pillar of light vibrated violently and ceaselessly, as crackling purple currents danced wildly in the air. Morong Shuer cried out in pain, one of her hands swollen like a pig's trot. "This is incredibly tough." Morong Gong said from the side, "Stop trying. This is an immortal secret realm. Even my clone is powerless against it, there is no discernible entrance." The pillar of light remained stubbornly coalesced. Could it be that a secret incantation is required to open it? Zhang Xiaofeng remarked from the side, "That would be too troublesome. Why don't we ask the senior for help?" Morong Gong sighed helplessly, "I know you want to see the senior, but with such a significant disturbance, the senior must surely be aware. It seems they want us to resolve this ourselves." Zhang Xiaofeng asked doubtfully, "What makes you say that?" Morong Gong began, "Because..." Before he could finish his sentence, the pillar of light began to vibrate violently, emitting a humming sound that made them all dizzy. The protagonist lay on his bed, increasingly irritated by the vibrations. Haven't Old Man Gong and the others solved this yet? Are they going to let anyone sleep? Who can make this cursed mystic realm stop? In the quiet kitchen, the kitchen knife suddenly glowed intensely, instantly transforming into a red-haired youth. His lean, well-built body radiated explosive power, enveloped by a cyan aura, exuding an unmatched formidable presence. He merely uttered two cold words, "Understood." Such a concise reply revealed immense confidence and a domineering presence. At the location of the light pillar, Morong Shuer was gazing into the distance. At this moment, Morong Shuer excitedly pointed into the distance and exclaimed, "It's coming." Zhang Xiaofeng asked, "Coming? Is that the senior?" Morong Gong quickly covered his face with his hand, feeling guilty, trying to reduce his presence. No, that was the senior's origin. As they spoke, the kitchen knife arrived like a whirlwind. After rapidly circling the light pillar a few times, it stopped and declared, "To think something of this power has appeared in the mortal realm, even in the immortal realm it's quite rare, isn't it? Interesting, but alas, before this Grand Master knife, it's still no match." With a whoosh, a terrifying blade energy sliced through the light pillar, tearing it apart from the middle like a piece of cloth, easily destroying it. The kitchen knife let out a sigh of lingering dissatisfaction. "It seems I overestimated it, it was just trash." The light pillar burst explosively, and rampant energy spread outwards. Morong Gong and the others struggled to hold their ground, raising energy shields. After the smoke and dust cleared, what appeared before them was an enormous deep pit and a milky white orb of light. Inside the orb, a girl lay on the ground, bound by thick, heavy red chains, which had been cracked open by the recent violent explosion. In an instant, the girl opened her eyes. The kitchen knife stood high in the sky and let out a soft hum. Morong Shuer excitedly exclaimed, "The light pillar is broken. Quick, let's see what treasures are inside." "Wait a moment." Morong Gong stopped him. At this moment, Zhang Xiaofeng also looked up at the sky. "What is that?" The two looked up, only to see a terrifying, colossal ghostly face appear in the high heavens at some unknown moment, blotting out the sun. It emitted a hollow sound. Subsequently, a slender, delicate hand extended from the enormous orb of light. With arms crossed, the kitchen knife remarked, "This I hadn't expected, an immortal essence realm practitioner who has fallen to demonic influence." As it spoke, a small girl emerged from the orb of light. A malicious smile graced her face, and each step she took echoed rhythmically, as if treading upon one's heart. Was the previous mystic realm used to imprison this monstrous being? However, the demonically corrupted immortal essence realm little girl did not reply. After being drawn by the kitchen knife's voice, she became immobile. Morong Gong cupped his hands and bowed, saying, "I am Morong Gong." Morong Gong continued, as an elder devoted to cultivation, seeing the situation with this little girl, I'm shocked that someone could be so ruthless towards a seemingly weak child. The immortal essence realm Loli opened her eyes, instantly charming all the divine beasts and artifacts in the protagonist's courtyard. Her large, blinking eyes were utterly adorable. The little Loli, Su Ling, softly and sweetly asked, "Where's this?" She touched her small forehead with her finger, and as runes spread out, she said, "This is your home. From now on, you will call your master brother." The golden immortal sword secretly peeked from the side. I have a premonition that the overlord immortal emperor will definitely not be able to sit still now. In the immortal realm, the overlord immortal emperor held a jade token, staring blankly at the dissipating black mist on it, who destroyed the secret realm I personally created and allowed Linger to regain her sentience. "My daughter, I will send people to find you now." He then ordered all the powerhouses of the heavenly court to descend to the mortal realm to search for his daughter's whereabouts. Early the next morning, the male protagonist vaguely felt someone shaking him. So he pulled the quilt over his head and said, "It's the first time in years I've slept in this late. It's all because that secret realm was so noisy last night. I'll sleep a bit more." A soft and sweet voice came, "Brother, wake up quickly." "Brother?" The male protagonist's sleepiness instantly vanished by more than half. The soft and sweet voice continued, "The sun's already high in the sky, brother." The male protagonist opened his eyes and was instantly petrified, seeing an adorable little Loli standing by the bed, her big eyes blinking as she looked at him. The male protagonist let out a startled whoa. "Little sister, who are you? How did you get here?" The little Loli said, "My name is Su Ling, and this is my home." The male protagonist thought to himself, "This is this small town? But such a cute little girl, I've lived here for 5 years, it's impossible I haven't seen her." The male protagonist got out of bed, stroked the little Loli's head, and said, "Su Ling, right? Then I'll call you Xiao Ling. How about brother takes you to find your parents?" The little Loli nodded obediently, "Okay." The male protagonist said, "Then you must stay close to me, don't get lost again." Then, letting the little Loli lead the way to her home, they circled around and ended up back in front of the courtyard. The little Loli said, "My home is right here." The male protagonist's face was lined with exasperation, "Isn't this my home? Did we just circle back?" Then, "Xiao Linger, do you still remember what your parents look like?" The little Loli shook her head, "I don't remember, but Sister Peach Tree." Just as the little Loli said this, the peach tree in the backyard was instantly startled, and with a shake, a small stone bounced off the little Loli's head. Thus, in the male protagonist's imagination, the little Loli got lost from her family while passing through the small town. Then she fell and suffered from memory confusion, so he would temporarily have an extra little sister while waiting for her parents to find her. At this moment, Morong Gong and Zhang Xiaofeng arrived to visit. Morong Gong introduced, "Senior." Zhang Xiaofeng wanted to personally thank Senior for saving his life, so he brought him here to pay his respects. After Zhang Xiaofeng bowed respectfully, he was indeed stunned to see the male protagonist imbued with the principles of the Tao, realizing that he was just as powerful as Morong Gong had described. The male lead tilted his head, pondering, "A life-saving favor? Have we met before?" He then realized his mistake, they had been brought along to share a meal. The young girl walked over and spoke. "Brother, who are they?" Upon seeing the young girl, Zhang Xiaofeng and his companion were immediately taken aback. "Senior, who might this be?" the male lead was asked. He responded, "This is my sister, Su Lin. She's 12 years old and, like me, an ordinary person." Upon hearing the male lead's reply, Morong Gong and Zhang Xiaofeng, observing the Taoist energy emanating from the young girl, were instantly petrified. This is likely an immortal. If this is what an ordinary person is, how can true ordinary people survive? However, the realization that she was the senior's sister brought a sense of understanding and relief. What formidable beings must their parents be? And what culinary delights could possibly move two cultivators to tears? After discerning their intention to partake in a meal without contributing, Zhang Xiaofeng hastily interjected, "By no means, how could we possibly impose on the senior's hospitality for a meal?" Morong Gong, listening from the side, found his face darkening in dismay. He swiftly covered his companion's mouth, stating, we shall adhere to all of the senior's arrangements. The male protagonist then guided the mortals towards the interior of the house. Since you have already arrived, there is no need for formality. Please, make yourselves comfortable for a while. Xiaolinger inquired. Brother, are you preparing a meal? If so, allow me. Upon hearing this, the male protagonist had not anticipated that Xiaolinger possessed culinary skills, though he remained curious about the quality of her cooking. Once Xiaolinger had proceeded to the kitchen, he tapped the tabletop and remarked, incidentally, there is a child present this time, so please be mindful of your table manners and avoid setting a poor example. Murongong's seasoned face flushed crimson upon hearing this, and he nodded repeatedly with the earnestness of a chick pecking grain. What precisely did you do at the senior's residence previously? Furthermore, to brazenly come here to partake in a meal, how could you be so imprudent? A dark expression crossed Murongong's face. If you possess such conviction, then refrain from eating later. At this opportune moment, a delightful aroma began to waft through the air. The young girl approached, carrying a gleaming golden divine cooking implement, and announced, "It is prepared." As the lid was lifted, a radiant golden light emanated from within the pot, utterly astonishing both Murongong and Zhang Xiaofeng. What manner of celestial treasure is this? Following a period of ravenous consumption, the two men were so utterly sated that they slumped back into their chairs, hiccuping and gasping for breath as they murmured, "Our sincere gratitude for your splendid hospitality." The protagonist stared at the empty wooden barrel, a look of exasperation on his face. This massive pot of rice, devoured by those two bottomless pits once more? Are you fiends? And though reluctant to admit it, Xiaolinger's culinary skills surpassed his by an immense margin. He inquired, "Xiaolinger, from whom did you learn your extraordinary cooking skills?" Xiaolinger pondered for a moment. "However, I seem to have discovered that I can prepare a great variety of dishes." A great variety of dishes? The protagonist was utterly delighted. Does this mean we won't have to eat the same dish repeatedly? Within the kitchen, the mystical pot was visibly moved to tears. A true kindred spirit. Though I apologize to the master, it would be best to place a few more seals on Linger's memories. Let us not allow her to seek out her incompetent father. The cleaver, utterly exasperated, exclaimed, "Oh, this incessant noise." Meanwhile, Zhang Xiaofeng was already in tears, contemplating, could it be that I truly broke through to the soul separation stage after just a single meal? Murongong, also shedding tears, declared, not only does it elevate one's cultivation level, but the flavor is also absolutely exquisite. Not only is Linger incredibly adorable, but she also possesses extraordinary culinary skills and exceptional power. My granddaughter truly cannot compare in any respect. I am utterly consumed by envy and jealousy. Esteemed senior, would you permit me to trade Murongshua for Linger? The protagonist was utterly dumbfounded. This fool, what ridiculous nonsense are you spouting, having overindulged yourself? Yet, on another note, where have my father and grandfather disappeared to? Am I truly their biological offspring? Princess Luolan Qing of the kingdom arrived for a visit. Murong Yunhai, the esteemed sect leader of the Immortal Gate, was nowhere to be found, and their unreliable grandfather had absconded to the protagonist's residence for a free meal, leaving Murong Shui to receive the visitors alone. Fortunately, as they had been close friends for many years, after exchanging initial pleasantries, Princess Luolan Qing of the kingdom gazed at Murong Shui and remarked, "You are truly growing more captivating with each passing day." Murong Shui's face flushed crimson as she stammered, I am not." At this very moment, a young man clad in green robes approached. It was none other than her cousin, Luo Xiaojie. He ostentatiously fanned himself and declared, "Did you not notice your esteemed cousin standing here?" Murong Shui pointed an accusing finger at Luo Xiaojie. "Why have you followed us? Are you once again harboring impossible aspirations? Qing, I implore you, keep your distance from this individual." Luo Xiaojie, his brow beaded with sweat, began to speak. "Princess, don't listen to that little girl's nonsense, I'm actually quite good." Then, turning her head, she whispered, "You've really grown stubborn, haven't you? Do you believe I can bully you just like when we were children?" Murong Shui crossed her arms and snorted coldly, "Humph. Back then, your cultivation was higher, and I couldn't beat you, but now." With that, she revealed a smile of enigmatic meaning. Go on, try if you dare. Having said that, she unleashed her full cultivation aura. In an instant, the powerful aura of a nascent soul 5th stage cultivator left Luo Xiaojie and Luo Lanqing utterly stunned. Luo Xiaojie promptly sat down on the ground and said in astonishment, How is this possible? How did you do it? Morong Shui put her hands on her hips and proudly declared. How about that? How do the 3 great geniuses of the kingdom, who are only at the nascent soul 5th stage, measure up? Luo Lanqing then spoke. Xiao Shui, what's going on with your cultivation? Could it be related to that streak of sword light? Morong Shui asked, puzzled. Sword light? Luo Lanqing replied. Exactly, and that's why I came to find you today. On that particular day, my father and I were traveling to attend an auction elsewhere. In the evening, I was admiring a mountain peak from the top of a pavilion. It was said that this mountain peak was a local scenic wonder, possessing countless rare treasures and spiritual herbs, and served as the foundation for the city's development. However, a sword gleam suddenly flashed through the mountain, likely unleashed by a powerful cultivator practicing a martial technique. It severed countless mountain peaks. In fact, I wasn't the only one, many other powerful cultivators also followed the sword light and arrived here. Recalling the astonishing scene of that day, Morong Shui said. That wasn't a sword light, it was a light of power. Luo Lanqing's eyes immediately sparkled with excitement. And she exclaimed, You really did know what I was talking about. She then continued. Xiaoxua, let's talk somewhere else. Don't let this toad eavesdrop. Do you have any manners? Hey! Luo Xiaojie called out to the 2 young women, Oh, don't be like that. Take your cousin along too, dear cousin. The 2 young women soared into the sky. Morong Shui recounted her experiences of that day to Luo Lanqing, all thoughts of secrecy long forgotten. Luo Lanqing found it utterly unbelievable. Immortal Senior. The tea can enhance spiritual root levels, and the food can boost cultivation. Morong Shui had completely forgotten not to disturb the senior. She said, Of course I wouldn't lie to you. I'll take you to the senior now. The male protagonist intended to play a flute in the courtyard. The moment she entered, Luo Lanqing felt uneasy, oppressed by countless powerful gazes within the courtyard. The male protagonist said. Young lady, there's no need for such formality. Brother, who are they? The little Loli charmed the 2 young women. Hello, sisters. Although the senior's younger sister possessed immense strength. As the sound resonated, several young women suddenly trembled. Was this flute music, this sudden surge of feeling a precursor to enlightenment? The senior possesses such heaven-defying abilities. Shut up, and stand properly in the corner. The young woman Luolan cried, covering her face in shame. The young woman Luolan immediately proposed marriage? Could it truly be because I am too handsome? Meanwhile, for the 2 young women, it was Princess Luolan's first confession in her life, with Morong Shui offering comfort beside her. It's normal not to be interested in us. How could I possibly say such things? The melody played by the male protagonist was secretly recorded by Luo Lanqing and Morong Shui. Upon using it again, both indeed advanced several levels. They once again experienced the thrill of rapid advancement. Just as they resolved to push through and gain a few more levels. The sound recording stone, however, exploded. The explosives that splattered on them corroded the 2 girls' clothes into tattered garments. At this moment, Luo Xiaojie also tracked them down, using Gauda maps. After all, I am one of the 3 great geniuses of the kingdom. Don't think for a moment that if you leave me behind, I'll be helpless. Previously, to prevent Princess Luolan and her companions from getting separated, he had cast a tracking spell on her clothes. However, their location signal had now vanished. Just as Luo Xiaojie lowered his head to check the location, Luo Lanqing and Morong Shui, the 2 girls, clutching their chests, secretly ran past behind Luo Xiaojie. With a crunch, a twig snapped underfoot. Luo Xiaojie was startled. When did you 2 get here? The 2 girls simultaneously cried out, Turn your head away, don't look over here. Do you believe I'll obliterate you? Luo Xiaojie quickly turned around, covering his eyes, thinking to himself, did I see that correctly? To his surprise, their strength had significantly increased. Such rapid improvement in power must be related to the place where they had lingered for a long time earlier. It seemed he had to go investigate. Arriving before the male protagonist's courtyard, he looked at the half-open door and said, "This courtyard is where they were staying earlier. It doesn't look like much, does it?" The moment he stepped inside the door, what first caught his eye was a large rooster and a broom. He had seen roosters and brooms before. But why did the rooster and broom before him emit such terrifying pressure that prevented him from standing upright, making even breathing difficult? Luo Shaojie was seen struggling to speak. "What kind of monsters are these? The sheer pressure alone makes me immobile." His entire body felt as if it were being scourged. At this moment, his face was drenched in sweat. His face flushed, and his heart pounded. And surprisingly, he even licked his lips. This sensation is quite pleasant. The great rooster, a divine beast, felt its scalp prickle at that moment. Its feathers stood on end across its entire body. It quickly retreated several steps, exclaiming, he couldn't possibly be excited, could he? I sensed the boy's blood rising. Even the broom, a divine artifact, was startled, exclaiming, "Oh my heavens! Does this boy have some peculiar fetish?" Meanwhile, the male protagonist, accompanied by the little Loli, had just arrived at his doorstep, only to see someone kneeling inside. He was immediately filled with astonishment. What the heck, another one kneeling? Did he trip? My threshold isn't that high. He stepped forward to help Luo Shaojie up, asking, "Brother, are you all right?" Luo Shaojie felt the pressure around him instantly dissipate. He stood up. To be able to remove all the pressure from my body in an instant. It seems the master of the courtyard has returned. He turned his head to look at the male protagonist. Luo Shaojie was instantly petrified. Principles and rhymes of the Tao surround him, how terrifying. He quickly knelt down, saying, "Greetings, senior. I humbly beg your forgiveness for inadvertently intruding upon your courtyard." The male protagonist felt utterly speechless. Another brother? If I'm not mistaken, you must be a relative of Morongong's family, correct? Don't take it to heart, I'm used to it now. Really, don't worry about it. Luo Shaojie was greatly astonished. Senior is indeed a brilliant strategist. Xiaoxue couldn't possibly have mentioned me. Yet Senior knew my information with just a glance. Such deductive ability is truly terrifying. The male protagonist paused, dumbfounded. He thought to himself, brilliant strategist, my foot. Your entire family, one by one, has some issue, and every time you're in my courtyard, you're drenched in sweat. Could it be that kidney deficiency is a hereditary family illness? A casual remark from the male protagonist could actually inspire others to create their own cultivation techniques. The young girl Su Ling came over, carrying a basket. The powerful aura emanating from her stunned Luo Shaojie. Luo Shaojie's forehead immediately beaded with sweat. There's actually another one. This little girl appears to be only around 12 years old, yet she possesses such strength. Luo Shaojie trembled from head to toe, and quickly prostrated himself, senior. Regarding this family hereditary illness, the male lead felt a headache coming on. You're going too far, hey! Don't just call everyone senior. Stepping forward, he helped him up and said, please, get up. If your body is weak, don't push yourself too hard. Even in cultivation, you must pay attention to balancing work and rest. Furthermore, your stance is already unstable, do not kneel at every turn. A man's knees are worth gold, do you understand? When Luo Shaojie heard the male lead's words, he mistook it as guidance on knees being worth gold. What profound wisdom was this? And he mentioned my unstable stance. Could it be that senior has perceived my hidden flaws? Although he was one of the kingdom's 3 great prodigies, with cultivation similar to the other 2, he had always been overshadowed by them, earning him the title of perennial third best. The most fundamental disparity lay in his movement technique. He possessed no martial arts technique capable of enhancing his movement. He closed his eyes and sank into deep contemplation. Beneath the knee, chi condenses and descends, dwelling in the lower leg, golden energy rises, surging upward, clashing into form. As he activated his cultivation technique, streaks of golden light immediately ascended from his feet, swiftly coursing through his entire body. Luo Shaoqia opened his eyes and exclaimed, "Ascend!" And with that, he truly soared into the sky. From below, the male lead remarked, "Is this a cultivator's martial technique? It appears incredibly formidable." Luo Shaoqia was overwhelmed with excitement. "Has it succeeded? My self-devised martial technique. Although I received guidance from the senior, creating one's own cultivation method is a monumental feat typically only achieved in the tribulation transcending stage." It was at this precise moment that the protagonist called out from the ground. "Go back and recuperate. Your blood circulation isn't good from kneeling too long. Don't push yourself too hard, or you might run into problems." The moment Luo Shaoqia heard "run into problems," a piercing pain indeed shot through his leg. He thought, as expected, the senior has seen the issue with my martial arts. I need to maintain the circulation of spiritual energy. So, he lightly tapped his toes, adjusting his cultivation method, and the symptoms immediately disappeared. The effect was instantaneous. Then, a word of thanks echoed from the sky. "Many thanks for your guidance, senior." Watching him fly into the distance, the protagonist said, utterly bewildered, what the heck did I do? Warning you to nourish your kidneys counts as guidance?" After the protagonist took the little Loli out, the divine artifacts and mythical beasts in the courtyard were also engaged in discussion. The peach tree said, "Cleaver, recently more cultivators have appeared around here. It must be because of that strike you made last time. If these people investigate this area, many will surely settle nearby, disturbing the peace here. You handle it." The carp also poked its head out of the water and said, "That's right, it's all your fault, so you fix it." The cleaver rubbed its head and said sheepishly, "I didn't expect the secret realm's pillar of light created by the immortal emperor of this world to be so shoddy. This is definitely the worst immortal emperor I've ever encountered. Besides, if the master doesn't tell me to go out, I can't leave. How am I supposed to fix it?" The golden immortal sword was secretly peeking from the side, looking shifty. "Look at that, the worst immortal emperor boss certainly talks differently." Just as it thought this, the cleaver suddenly appeared, startling the golden immortal sword so much that its soul nearly fled. The cleaver said, "You little piece of trash in the corner, how about helping me with something? Is that polite? I am an immortal artifact." The golden immortal sword trembled. "Be big boss, just say the word, and I'll handle it perfectly." The golden immortal sword was utterly helpless, a dignified immortal artifact being called a little piece of trash, and it didn't even dare to refute. The cleaver patted the golden immortal sword's head and said, "It seems your injuries have mostly recovered, so your abilities for shapeshifting and as an immortal artifact should be usable now. You are to go out and feign responsibility for that strike. Then, simply find a way to divert those who come investigating elsewhere. Though it is my glory you bask in, this presents a remarkable opportunity to forge your own renown." The golden immortal sword trembled, crying, "What renown? Is this not merely a ploy for me to bear the blame?" The cleaver then stroked its hilt, letting out a cold scoff. The golden immortal sword was instantly startled into alertness, promptly declaring, "Understood. Your might is unparalleled, master. I shall depart at once to fulfill this mission." With these words, it soared away, piercing the void with a swift rush. At this juncture, the golden immortal sword arrived at the site where the secret realm had previously descended, contemplating a vast canyon that stretched seemingly to the very edge of the sky. It mused, the blade light unleashed that day must have traversed the entire continent, reaching its furthest expanse. Numerous mountains must have crumbled. By tracing the path of the ravaged peaks, one would assuredly be led to this vicinity. Furthermore, a ruin here, flattened by the secret realm's radiant pillar, will inevitably draw their concentrated attention. Therefore, let a grand spectacle unfold right here. Having spoken, it assumed its humanoid manifestation, unleashing several swift strikes of sword energy upon the earth. The violent detonations echoing from the ground instantly drew the attention of those in the vicinity. They were observed to exclaim, "Behold, a humanoid artifact spirit, an immortal treasure." One individual remarked, "It appears that very attack emanated from this being. Indeed, a genuine treasure has manifested." Yet another voice chimed in. An immortal artifact. Were one to earn its recognition, would not unrivaled dominion over the continent be within grasp? A clamor of discussion erupted among the gathered, each aspiring to claim possession of this peerless immortal artifact. The artifact spirit of the immortal weapon offered a subtle smile, remarking, "At last, they have come." At this precise moment, Long Outyen, the esteemed lord of the Pavilion of Heavenly Secrets, stepped forth, extracting a circular jade-like artifact from within his robes. He declared, "Esteemed peers, I possess a viable strategy. This artifact, known as the Immortal Confinement Array, necessitates a substantial influx of spiritual energy for its activation. As all of you are profound masters of the Mahayana stage, a concerted effort to operate this device will render the capture of this immortal artifact a trivial matter. Thereafter, the selection of its master by the immortal artifact shall be determined solely by individual providence. What say you?" A chorus of assent rose from the assembled multitude. The spirit of the immortal sword uttered an expectant "Oh." Despite its prior subservience in the presence of the divine artifact cleaver, the innate confidence befitting an immortal artifact was now unequivocally on display. "Oh? The immortal confinement array? It has been a considerable age since I last beheld such a contraption. I shall indeed observe with keen anticipation." He waited and waited for 2 hours. Everyone's spiritual power was depleted, and yet no one managed to fully replenish it. He immediately declared, "It's just a piece of junk, haven't you filled it with spiritual energy yet? How utterly boring! Or perhaps I should go down and help them fully charge the trapped." The immortal array finally activated, and golden chains materialized, binding the artifact spirit. Long Outyen was incredibly excited. "Yes. It's a success." The immortal sword spirit, however, smiled and said, "Not a chance. Now it's my turn to perform." With that, he gave a violent shake, and the dragon trapping array, which everyone had spent a long time charging, lasted less than a single breath before being shattered into dust. Long Outyen instantly fell to his knees. The immortal sword spirit coldly stated, How could my power be something you could ever imagine? I do not kill ants. And furthermore, let me tell you. The reason I descended to the mortal realm is to find a destined master." As he spoke, he pointed into the distance. 1 month from now, I will appear in the center of the continent. To those destined to be with me, I wouldn't mind helping them become the strongest in this mortal realm, and I can even secure them a place in the immortal world. How wealthy was this protagonist? He prepared to go up the mountain to chop firewood. Unable to find his usual divine axe for chopping trees, he casually picked up a top-grade immortal artifact instead. After the golden immortal sword sneaked back, it received praise from Boss Cleaver for its efficient work. Just at that moment, the protagonist's voice resounded from outside the door. Seeing him about to enter, the immortal sword spirit quickly jumped onto the table and transformed back into the appearance of an immortal sword. After entering the room, the protagonist searched everywhere, but couldn't figure out where the axe had gone. The golden immortal sword looked at the protagonist, only to find that the Tao aura on his body had vanished. Could it be that too many cultivators had recently appeared, causing him to conceal it? The protagonist turned his head, spotted the immortal sword on the table, and said, "Today, I'll give you a try." The golden immortal sword immediately had an ominous premonition. "Huh, what is it?" "Chopping wood." On the other side, the golden immortal sword, having finished showing off, slipped away. The many cultivators he had led to the previous secret realm. Long Outyen returned to his old home not far away. Centuries passed in a flash. His relatives had all departed. Revisiting his old home now, the emotional resonance of the scenery unexpectedly led to a sudden elevation of his state of mind. As he left, he passed through a forest, and the heisho sounds of wood chopping caught his attention. Long Outyen took a closer look and was almost dumbfounded. Isn't that the immortal artifact from before? That person is actually using an immortal artifact to chop wood. Could this be an illusion? Meanwhile, with the golden immortal sword. Just a moment before, he was reflecting on his esteemed reputation in the immortal realm, never imagining a day when he would be used to chop firewood. Fortunately, no one saw. Just then, his gaze met Long Outyen's astonished eyes. Their eyes met and intertwined in midair, leaving both of them stunned. Long Out Yin plopped down onto the ground, exclaiming, "It's not an illusion, it's that immortal artifact from before." Hearing the commotion, the protagonist quickly dropped the immortal sword and went to help him up. Long Out Yin was dumbfounded by the protagonist's action. "What?" "He just casually threw it aside," he asked, gripping the protagonist's shoulder. "Young man, why are you using such a weapon to chop firewood?" The protagonist replied. "Are you referring to that sword just now? It's not very useful, so I just used it for chopping firewood." The protagonist's words struck Long Out Yin as if he had been hit by a lightning tribulation, causing him to stammer, Not very useful?" The protagonist picked up the firewood from the ground and said, "If you don't mind, why not come to my house for a seat? I'll just put away this bundle of firewood first." Long Out Yin gazed at the immortal artifact on the ground, struggling immensely to restrain himself from picking it up. This is an immortal artifact. Although this person exuded an otherworldly aura, it seemed he was merely a naive youth who mistook an immortal artifact for an ordinary weapon. Had the immortal artifact recognized him as its master? But even if it had, and was being used for chopping firewood, how could an immortal artifact have no spirit or temper? At that moment, the protagonist, with the firewood on his back, said, "Could I trouble you to help me pick up that sword?" Long Out Yin even wondered if he was hallucinating. I... The protagonist smiled and said, it's fine. Just be careful not to cut yourself." Long Out Yin was drenched in cold sweat. "Is cutting myself the problem? I feel as if merely touching it will be the end of me." Yet, the allure of the immortal artifact was simply too great. Who wouldn't want to hold it? So, steeling his resolve, he declared, "I'll risk it." The moment he touched the immortal sword, an unexpected change occurred. Indeed, the immortal sword erupted, exclaiming, "What are you doing here? Perish!" It moved with the force of a thunderbolt, narrowly missing him. Long Out Yin cried out in terror, I was wrong. Your master told me to take it." At that very moment, the protagonist, who was ahead, suddenly let out a cough. The immortal sword, which had been erupting like thunder, immediately halted upon hearing that cough. Beads of sweat, as large as beans, trickled down. Long Out Yin stared at the immortal sword in disbelief. "It just stopped?" The protagonist turned and smiled, "I've been busy for a while. And my throat's a bit dry. Come with me." Long Out Yin was utterly stunned. How can he make a celestial artifact so obedient? Who exactly is he? Long Out Yin followed the protagonist back to the courtyard and was utterly dumbfounded. It turned out that his statement of celestial artifacts are useless wasn't due to naivety, but because, compared to this courtyard, celestial artifacts were indeed not that significant. It seems he is a senior cultivating here. Compared to him, I might not even be as significant as an ant. The protagonist chuckled upon seeing his attitude. "Old man, you just called me a young fellow, and now you call me a senior. Do you perhaps know Morong Gong?" Morong Gong? Long Out Yin was greatly shaken. The Morong Gong that Long Out Yin understood referred to the Gong 4 craftsman, who was none other than the founder of his celestial venerate tower. He had already ascended thousands of years ago. Could this senior have divined that I am the master of the heavenly secret tower? Immediately, he clasped his hands and bowed. "Senior's divine foresight is truly admirable. This junior is deeply impressed." "What precisely is there to admire?" the protagonist said. "Are all those related to the Morong Gong family like this?" He then called out Xiao Linger. After introducing them, Long Out Yin's slightly calmed mood was suddenly shaken again. "Although this young girl is adorable, she is incredibly powerful." When the protagonist asked Xiao Linger to bring out the watermelon they bought to entertain Long Out Yin, Xiao Linger was displeased. The watermelon wasn't large enough for herself. So, she secretly released a slight pressure and, huffily, said to Long Out Yin, "Please come in." Beads of sweat, as large as beans, emerged from Long Out Yin's forehead. "Dare I even enter now?" he thought. So he said to the protagonist, "Well, senior, I've just remembered I have urgent matters to attend to, and it's getting late, so I wish to take my leave first." The protagonist said, "Are these important matters really so sudden?" Long Out Yin was drenched in sweat. "Precisely, it is that important, and that urgent." The protagonist said, "Then I won't insist on you staying, but I wanted to ask, Elder Long, Have you heard of any treasures that can lower temperatures? Treasures for lowering temperatures? Long Out Yin paused, taken aback. I do have one, but it might not be considered a treasure to a senior like yourself. It's merely a modest heirloom of my tower. The protagonist was momentarily stunned. As long as it can lower temperatures, that's fine. I wonder if Elder Long has any intention of selling it. Long Out Yin replied, Senior is truly too modest. This item is not of much use to me. If Senior needs it, I shall simply present it to you. I should be able to bring it over tomorrow. The protagonist let out a laugh. How can I accept that? Why don't you have a meal before you leave, Elder Long? Upon hearing this, the little girl turned, her eyes glinting with a cold light. Long Out Yin, terrified and drenched in cold sweat, repeatedly stepped back. This junior truly has urgent matters and must take my leave now. He was already halfway into the air before he finished speaking. The protagonist watched his retreating figure. It seems he truly is in a great hurry. The next day, the protagonist was led out by the little Loli to buy a dress. Seeing them leave, the golden immortal sword finally breathed a sigh of relief, remarking, maintaining this disguise has been exhausting. At this moment, several cultivators flew past on their swords high above. The golden immortal sword was momentarily stunned. It seems yesterday's handling wasn't good enough, the higher-ups must be satisfied. Having said this, it manifested its spirit form and swiftly chased after them. It declared, esteemed figures, some minor nuisances have not been fully cleared. The cleaver opened its eyes and muttered, something seems amiss. However, what awaited him was disaster. The immortal sword's spirit arrived at the secret realm, and as he looked around, a sinister voice emerged from behind. Why is there a familiar scent in this mortal world? It is you indeed, Golden Plume Immortal Artifact, it's been a long time. Witnessing this repulsive countenance, the little spirit quickly retreated. Familiar, though not ancient, memories surged forth. This individual was precisely the one from the Blood Moon sect who had previously imprisoned and tormented him. To precisely locate him across so many mortal realms clearly indicated that the other party had tampered with him. Could it be that yesterday's attack had revealed an opportune moment? The little spirit intended to flee, but it was already too late. The opponent produced a talisman, began forming hand seals, and chanted incantations. Familiar? The spirit-binding array enveloped the little spirit, pinning him to the ground with crisp, cracking sounds. He gasped, of course it's familiar. If not for this damned array sealing my spiritual energy, your pathetic sect would be no match for me. Ha, the opponent cackled, say whatever you wish. What if I am trash? I can render you powerless to resist, and you can only obediently surrender, can't you? You're not still hoping someone will come to rescue you, are you? The little spirit let out a dry chuckle. What a pity. In this pathetic mortal world you speak of, you are still worse than trash. The Blood Moon sect member was startled. Are you implying there's someone stronger than me in this mortal realm? A vision appeared in the little spirit's mind. Of course. His boundless power is beyond my reach, even to follow him is a mere luxury. And as for you, the little spirit gritted his teeth and stood up, you are nothing but a complete scoundrel, worse than trash.